from the USC game related to officiating that I talked about 10 days ago. We had a chance to acknowledge some of the procedural mistakes from the replay in that game. As I announced, we made some immediate changes and corrections to our protocol, as well as we're studying a variety of other issues, benchmarking other conferences that we're going to be discussing with our members in the coming weeks. Happy to take any questions anyone's got about anything.
Follow up on the protocol. I mean, do you know yet if is that in writing? If you made changes to it, is it somewhere in writing where you said, all right, we're revising this and it's in writing, or is it just you whispering in somebody's ear?
I had a chance to look into it after you asked, and there's an NCA rule in writing. There is no manual that exists at the NCA level or a conference that details every step, but there is extensive training and discussions and a lot of clarity amongst the replay staff about how replay works. But I'm not aware of any manual that exists in our conference or nationally.
So when you make that change to protocol, what do? Do you call somebody, or is that issued in writing?
Oh, that was issued by me to our staff.
Do you expect to continue to communicate with your coaches from the public schools in text messages, given they're subject to records requests?
Oh, we haven't had a chance to think about that yet, but yeah, this is we really value our private communication with our coaches. Try to be very transparent whenever they contact us, and certainly as part of the review of calls. We've got a process that we go through on Mondays, but we haven't had a chance to think about that.
Obviously, there were some current concerns expressed about the objectivity of the conference. Do you feel like that's an isolated opinion, or might there be other schools that feel that way?
Well, vis-a-vis concerns about our protocol, I have had a chance to interview the folks involved in replay review, and I've been told it's an isolated incident in terms of what happened with our policies and procedures, which we've now changed.
So other schools haven't expressed concerns about the objectivity of the conference in terms of how officiating is
No, not to me.
Is Woody Dixon in good standing with you, or
Absolutely.
What's his?
Woody's held in very high regard by our schools. He's held in very high regard nationally, and by me. There was a mistake that was made here. There's no question about that, and we've taken corrective action. And we've got ongoing discussions about other changes we might make. But he's held in very high regard by our coaches, our athletics directors, our presidents, and many others.
Larry, due respect, but how can you say that when you have a coach in this conference and basically called him a coward? I mean, other coaches may feel that way, other ADs may feel this way, but you have a member coach in writing, unequivocally calling him out and being very personal. How can you say that?
Well, let me say two things. I'm not going to comment on private communication with our coaches. Secondly, if there are ever accusations about integrity or our personnel, we immediately go to the leadership of our university's athletics departments and ask if they'd like to have an inquiry or review, and Washington State declined to do so.
You said there was a mistake made. What was the mistake?
The mistake was leaving any doubt about who makes our replay decisions, weighing in a way that our replay officials thought that they were being instructed to make a call. That is not what was intended. And let me be clear, that's not what Mr. Dixon thought he was doing. There was a miscommunication there. But if there's any lack of clarity, that's a problem, and that's why I felt we needed to make a change. But there was no intention to manipulate a call or influence a call.
But the perception of it, who's responsible for that? By putting him into the booth, it creates perception, and who ultimately is responsible for that decision?
I ultimately take responsibility for that. Our procedure was designed by our head of officiating and Mr. Dixon that involved them in a support role on the decisions. So it wasn't a surprise to me and many others that he was involved in the process of the support role. The surprise was that officials thought that he was having influence to actually direct a call. And in hindsight, I recognize it was a mistake. There's the perceived conflict of interest, any scenario, because he's got seniority in the organization where there could be ambiguity about who's in charge, who makes the decision, I take blame for that.
Now, not to make tourist conversation overblown, because these communications happen elsewhere. They may not be subject to public records or whatever the case may be, but we've been talking about this issue, this call for weeks, and the integrity of competition is tantamount for everybody. It's the thing. Why not make a personnel move to get past this? Are we going to keep talking about it for another week, another month, all year? When perception is about officiating in this league, why not make a personnel move and just end this?
I made an immediate personnel move to solve any perception issue, any possible perception issue going forward, that there's folks other than the replay supervisor at the stadium, and the on-field officials involved in replay decisions. That move was immediately made within 24 hours of us hearing about this and having a chance to review it.
Do you think that similar to that other commissioners, other Power 5 commissioners, would take that level of action and not a termination?
Oh, I can't speculate on. I'm not going to speculate on other people's officiating programs or how they handle their personnel matters.
We know that Coach Leach has been texting. Have other coaches made similar communications?
I'm not going to comment. We have a lot of communication with our coaches and with our athletics departments. We're very transparent with our members. I'm not going to comment on specific communications that are intended to be private.
You talked about player safety, or integrity, but the other part of this is player safety.
Yes.
When it comes to targeting, is there an issue with player safety and officiating at 12 right now?
I'm very proud of the position the Pac-12 represents nationally on player safety. There is no conference that has done more financially or in other ways to show our commitment to player safety. We're the only conference in the country that has spent $10 million on research grants around head trauma and other matters. We're the only conference in the country that's hosted with the NC and Department of Defense a concussion summit at UCLA last year. We're the only conference in the country whose coaches have voluntarily agreed to have less contact in practice than others, and I can go on. Our conference has been a leader in student athlete health in a variety of matters. And by the way, we called more targeting calls than any other conference last year. So I take great exception to any suggestion that player safety is not a high priority for us.
How would you characterize your relationship with Matt Leach and Washington?
I characterize my relationships as great with our coaches. I spend a lot of time with our coaches at coaches meetings, I'm very communicative in a lot of different ways with our coaches. I don't know how others do it, but I would assume I'm considered to be one of the most engaged commissioners with coaches.
This hasn't gone away, despite whatever changes you've made or the talking points or whatever you said. So it hasn't gone away to this point. The public doesn't have confidence that this was an isolated incident. I hear about it. I'm sure you hear about it. So what do you do moving forward when you've got public distrust? You have to do something, or are you going to just sit here for the rest of the season and talk this way?
What I'm talking about is the actions that I've taken, the actions that we're studying and planning to take. My responsibility is to our members. That's the trust and the transparency
What about the
and the
ticket holders?
communication.
What about the people watching the games, the fans? Do you have an obligation to the fans?
My obligation is to our members to uphold the highest level of integrity around our officiating, and when it comes to matters, especially targeting student athlete health. And I've got tremendous confidence that our conference is considered a leader in both those areas. Any other questions? Thank you.